Yo. This is the Motor Synth Mark II by Game Changer Audio. They have lent this to me so graciously. Not sponsored, but they did let me borrow this. I will return it very soon. But you may know of Game Changer Audio. They make the plasma pedal and they have a whole plasma lineup, so effects that are generated using plasma. They also have a light pedal, which is a spring reverb guitar pedal kind of thing. And this is a quick look at their Motor Synth Mark II. If you couldn't tell, this is a very unique synthesizer because instead of a normal oscillator setup that you would have with a normal analog synthesizer, the oscillators are controlled or even generated by the motors. You have 4 waveforms, the sine wave, sawtooth, square wave, and the induction wave. And the induction wave is where this thing is really crazy. The induction wave is generated by the electromagnetic field generated by the motors when they spin. That field is then picked up by an inductor, or basically a guitar pickup, to create a waveform. What's really cool about that is you have something physically moving in the real world to create your sound. So where an analog synth is just electrical signals moving through filters and stuff, this is interacting with the atmosphere, and you can get some really unique sounds from this thing. So why don't I give you a sample of what that induction wave sounds like. You gotta wake it from sleep. Wait for the motors. Cool. I'm gonna turn down voice 2, and there's a digitally controlled oscillator. We'll ignore that for now and make sure I'm only hearing voice 1 and set it to the induction wave. It has a super rich, almost bit reduction kind of quality. I don't know how to describe it. It's so unique and I love it. Now we of course have 2 motor voices and 4-note polyphony, so 2 voices per note. Let's go ahead and turn up the second voice, set it to the induction wave, and we'll just do octaves. Another cool thing this synthesizer has is a drift and detune knob, which is even cooler on a motor synth because you can physically see it detuning with your own eyes. Let me show you. So this is with no detuning or drift. Add some detune, which is static shifting of the pitch, which we can see on this little graph here. If we turn the knob the other way, we get drift. You can see by the screen is a constant movement of the pitch. And the farther we turn the knob, the greater the depth of the drift and the frequency of the drift. So let's listen to it. One thing I like to do is to put the synth in unison mode and then drift all the motors, and I'll show you how to do that right now. I'm gonna set each voice to unison. You can listen to that. Also, another cool thing is you can see the waveform on the screen. Now that we're in unison, let's drift the notes a little bit. I'll incrementally increase the drift. Here's no drift to full drift. So obviously at the extreme, it's a bit much, but there is a sweet spot where it sounds super wide and super big. Let's tune that in again. Another interesting thing about this synthesizer is the keyboard setup. We only have 8 notes to work with, at least physically. You can plug a MIDI keyboard in or sequence it via Ableton or some software using the USB cord. And by default, the keyboard is set up in the minor pentatonic scale. So mine's an E, you can't see it right now, but it's an E. So we have E, G, A, B, D, E, and then it loops G, A, and the bottom 4 are the higher octave and the top 4 are a lower octave. You can of course change it to whatever configuration you'd like simply by twisting these knobs. You can also shift all the notes by holding Alt in this Shift All knob. Given this keyboard layout, I could see this thing really shining for ambient music, and I've already applied it to some of my new music, so make sure you're... Oh, there's a hair. Sorry. So make sure you're following me on Spotify and all that stuff. I'll put links in the description. Before we continue, I must let you know that this video is sponsored by me. I'm releasing a sample pack alongside this video with samples from the Motor Synth. So go check that out at jacobdurbin.com and let me know what you think. Also, I'm recording my voiceover on this Oma ribbon mic, which is kind of cool. They're letting me demo this as well for a couple weeks. So anyways, we also have a cross modulation, which is pretty cool. I'm pretty sure it's FM, could be AM. I'm not sure, but it sounds dope. Let's listen. We also have your typical filter setup and an octave parameter, as well as amp envelopes. These next two knobs I really want to highlight. Let me show you what they do. One is called the from and to knob, and the other one is the accelerator and the brake knob. Watch what happens when I increase the acceleration and increase the from knob. So as you can hear, the from knob is the starting pitch when you trigger the note, and the acceleration knob is how long it takes to get to the destination note, which is really cool for sound design like kick drums and stuff. Now let's talk about the other waveforms. The other waveforms are still controlled by the motors, but in a pretty interesting way. The bottom of the discs don't look like the top, and I'll do my best to show you how they look with my horrible drawing skills. But each disc has 3 lanes on the bottom of it, and each lane is representing a waveform. An optical sensor reads the black color is on and the white is off. And as it spins, it'll spin on, off, so fast that it generates a waveform. And it's run through a typical oscillator, so you get an analog audio signal, but at the same time, it's still interacting with the real world in a physical environment. So you still get a nuanced sound that's a little bit different than what you would get from a typical oscillator. Let's go ahead and listen to each wave that isn't the induction wave through a single voice on the Motor Synth. This is sine wave, sawtooth, square. So as you can see, you don't really get perfect waveforms, and in a way that's kind of cool. This synth is so powerful, and I haven't even delved into the digitally controlled oscillator, but I think I'm gonna stop here because it just becomes a rabbit hole of things to play with. I still think this synthesizer is fairly limited in its applications. One, its power draw is kind of crazy. I've had it hit 300 watts, which the power supply is not rated for, so not sure how that's possible, and it does eventually shut off, and the breaker within the power supply flips. So that's a bit concerning, but not a huge issue. It only happens at really high notes because, you know, the faster the motors spin, the higher the power draw. So this thing really draws power compared to normal synthesizers. So that is a downfall if you are considering that. And it's honestly pretty fragile. So if you're trying to tour with it or something, I don't know how well that would work. But I've been playing it with a MIDI keyboard ran through Ableton through the USB on here, and it's been very useful. And I'm releasing some new stuff with it. So again, check out the description. This was a very crude and quick look at the Motor Synth Mark II, and I want to make more content with it and explore more of its features with you guys, but I will have to return it soon to Game Changer Audio. I've had it for a while. So no promises, I'll do my best. Leave a comment if there's anything specific you would want me to do with it. It would also mean the world to me if you subscribed. I have a Patreon link down below if you want to support me. I try my best not to put those annoying ads in the middle of the videos unless it's for my own sample pack, which, by the way, there's a sample pack with this synth on my website. You should go check it out. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this really unique piece of gear. Shout out to Game Changer Audio for making this video possible, and I'll see you guys later.